With the Citi Double Cash Card, you get 1% cash back when you buy and 1% as you pay. That's like the joy of discovering the last donut.
Ooh.
And it has your name on it, literally, in chocolate sprinkly things.
No way.
Double the love with the Citi Double Cash Card. Apply now at Citi.com/doublecash.
It's Golic and Wingo. Mike Golic Jr., Matt Berry, filling in for the guys here on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Reminder, 30 for 30 podcasts have returned. These are stories you just have to hear to believe. Subscribe right now in the Listen tab of ESPN app or Apple Podcasts, presented by Mini. Got a lot going on here this morning, basking in the afterglow of Christmas Day, and for us, it's a lot of looking at people in bad pajama sets, but also a lot of sports, thankfully, to water down some of that societal evil that we've dealt with.
I feel like we've got a lot of good things going over the first 2 hours.
Yes.
And if you're just joining us here top of the hour on Golic and Wingo, I'm personally using social media selfishly today. And the Twitter handle with over 1 million followers, I'm trying to bring down A Christmas Story.
No, it's a worthwhile endeavor.
And what I'm learning about the audience that listens to Golic and Wingo, we're starting to align on a lot of the same beliefs because they've now put up polls on Twitter.
Oh, yeah.
Where you can vote one or the other. Both are on my side.
Yeah, I'm liking this. This has been a weaponizing of social media that we can really get behind because as we've seen this year, you can affect change through social media. And so if you can pull this off, we've got 364 more days until next year's marathons begin. I'm feeling good about the strong start that we've got.
I never thought I'd say this, but thank you, Tennessee Volunteer fans, for just showing us the way.
Who knew? Listen, Greg Schiano kind of had to fall on the sword for us here, but I feel like some great change can come out of this.
Look, the day after Christmas, we can all go back to being selfish.
You got to break a few eggs if you want to make an omelet. So we will get back to that shortly. But we did have a ton in the world of sports happen on Christmas Day. And so to get back and help you guys get caught up on some of that, we will go off the top.
It's time for Off the Top.
Whether you like it or not, it's just beginning.
With Golic and Wingo.
And we begin with
Off the Top.
The Warriors defeating the Cavaliers as part of our NBA quadruple header. They win 99-92, holding Cleveland to their lowest field goal percentage since Christmas Day of 2015, which, spoiler alert, was also in Oakland against the Warriors.
I love anytime Warriors-Cavs get together. I'll watch it every single day of the week. And here's what's good about it is we again saw another development in this new Kevin Durant we are seeing, which is this. I don't care what people think about me in terms of being a villain. I'm going to perpetuate that reputation that's being put out there by me right now. And I believe that I'm the best player in the league. And with Steph Curry sidelined with an injury, Durant is doing everything he can in his power to show people that he is the best player in the NBA. He's the MVP of the NBA, and he's going to fight back against anyone who says otherwise. It's been really fun to watch Durant, who's known for being kind of quiet, the guy at the press conference making his mom cry for the MVP. Completely different player we've seen this year, and I love it.
He's been polarizing, and we could never say that about Kevin Durant in Oklahoma City for the most part. You mentioned something that Tim Legler brought up when he was on with us before, which is the evolution of the player, and maybe we didn't notice enough of what he was doing defensively in Oklahoma City. It's been impossible to ignore in Golden State, and last night in the fourth quarter, Kevin Durant against the Cavaliers, field goal percentage-wise, Cavs went 0 for 4 when he was the primary defender, including 0 for 3 by LeBron James in some important moments down the stretch.
Let me ask you this, because I know a lot of people are saying, I've got Cavs Warriors fatigue. We've seen it 3 times. Do I need to see it again? I'm all for entertainment in a good series. If it means seeing it again and it's going to be competitive like the last few, sign me up. People said that about Alabama, Clemson of the college football playoff. This will be seen over the 3rd consecutive year, although this is in the semifinal. The games have been great. I don't care what the matchup is and how many times we've seen it. If it's good product, I'm in.
Yeah, you have so many of the best players, and that's the benefit, I think, of the super team model, is you get a lot more all-stars on the court at any given time in these matchups, and that is really what the league is looking for. As we continue,
Off the Top.
The Thunder defeat the Rockets in another matchup full of all-stars to win their 5th straight game and improve to 11-3 this month. Oklahoma City much more effective in closing out, 9-1 in its last 10 games decided by 6 points or fewer.
This another one for me. 5 straight wins for that trio of George, Carmelo, Russell Westbrook. Westbrook said after the game last night, we're finally starting to figure out how people are defending us. If they get this figured out, You're now looking at the Western Conference. Spurs are really good. Chris Paul, when healthy, the Rockets might be the best team in the West. The Warriors, and if this Oklahoma City Thunder team figures out the chemistry, these playoffs are going to be as entertaining as we've ever seen.
Glad you said the Spurs, too, because they've been largely without Kawhi Leonard for a majority of the season, hampered by injury. That team starts to get going. We know perennially every year they've got a chance because of him, because of the job that Pop does out there. Going to be a very interesting group, a lot like the NFC in this year's playoffs. So much talent, so many good teams. We'll wait and see how that shakes out as the year goes on. And speaking of the NFC,
Off the top.
The Philadelphia Eagles beat the Raiders last night, but that's not the story. The story is they clinch home field advantage throughout the NFC playoffs with that win. They do this despite having to overcome their worst offensive performance of the season in terms of total yards, first downs, and third down conversion percentage.
I see the Eagles. I know they're the 1 seed. I know they've got home field throughout. I know they're 13-2. They did this largely on the back and arm of Carson Wentz, who's no longer there. Nick Foles, to me, is not a type of quarterback who takes you to the Super Bowl. If I'm looking at the NFC right now with the Minnesota Vikings, the Rams, the Saints, Panthers, I would take any of those teams, Vikings, Rams, Saints, Panthers, over the Philadelphia Eagles as we sit here this morning.
I'd be with you, and I think the one that's gaining more and more steam as we get closer to the playoffs because we default to what we can trust and know, and that's Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints outfit.
I love them because now they run the ball.
Yes, exactly. You've added that element that was a part of their Super Bowl run many moons ago now. So when the formula looks the same, it becomes something that we all have an easier time trusting. That was
Off the top.
And now we are fortunate to be joined by, as we transition from the world of the NFL to the world of college football, we enlist a little bit of help. We bring in Marty Smith, the Marty Party, on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, brought to you by Goodyear. Tires as hardworking as college football's most blimp-worthy athletes. Goodyear, the official sponsor of the college football playoff.
Marty!
Marty!
Hey, I've got a couple of things I've got to settle with you right out of the gate before we talk anything else, all right?
Okay.
All right,
Okay,
first
I'm
one. A Christmas Story. I'm trying to take it down. Are you in or you out?
You're trying to take it down. Take it down in what way? Like you're going to disparage its excellence?
All right, so you're obviously not on my side.
There we
of
go.
this,
Yeah,
right?
Matt's against the fact that it has a 24-hour marathon all to itself on 2 channels.
Well, that might be a bit excessive, but it's still awesome. I mean, when Ralphie just knocks the hell out of old, what's his name there, that redheaded kid with the braces?
Yes.
Scott
it's
Farkas.
awesome. Yeah. I mean, look, man, that's a life lesson right there. You're teaching America's youth that you don't stand for the mess.
Yeah,
You stand up for yourself, and I'm all in on that.
America's Youth does that now. There'll be lawsuits because everyone's so sensitive.
Exactly.
Question number
Big problem.
2, matching pajamas, yes or no?
Well, look, I got no. I really don't have any other answer except for yes, because Lainey's entire family, her mom, bought all of us the same pajamas, and I'm actually in them right now.
I knew it!
No.
Yeah, man, look. But I will say this is the first year. I think it's the first year. Like she's gotten us pajamas. Lainey and I've been married for almost 18 years. All right, we've been together for 20. So I think this is the first year we've all of us. And when I say all, Lainey's one of 6 huge Italian family, and there's a lot of us. And I think this is the first year we've all had on this like lumberjack red and black checkered effect. I have a zip up sleeveless vest on that has like a cell phone pocket in the chest. I'm going big, boys.
Marty, if anyone could pull it off, it's you. So if this movement needed
sure.
a face, I think the matching pajama movement is going to be led by Marty Smith. I know.
We took it to another plateau, though, gentlemen. Mama C, as we call her, Lainey's mother, also got all the guys these hats.
Oh.
They're the Santa hat effect, but they have the antlers on the hat, and the antlers have bells on the antlers.
Oh, no.
So not only have we gone full PJs, we have the dudes have been wearing these hats around with the antlers. And it's a whole other level of insanity.
Marty, I think I just saw
pray for me.
I just saw Matt's soul leave his body as he heard the conditions you've been subjected to.
Well, Maddie and Maddie's my best friend in the company, so he understands what he's gotten himself into by befriing me.
Is
It's part of
there
the package, dude?
Is there any way, can we get like photo evidence of on some social media platform? Can you put this out there to people?
Oh yeah.
Nope.
Okay, good. That's actually the right thing, because Marty will be somewhere for the college football playoff, and there'll be a big poster board cutout of Marty in his PJs and hat, and no one needs to see that more than once.
That is true. Really, Matt, above all else, is against the social media use of all of this and the amount of times we've got to see it on Instagram and Twitter. So kudos to you, Marty, for not feeding in to the machine. Talking to Marty Smith here on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And even though you're in your PJs, Marty, we'll still ask you to talk some college football this morning. We've got Josh Rosen getting ready to play into a bowl game tonight, and talked the other day about players starting the trend and continuing the trend of skipping out on bowl games in preparation for the NFL draft. What are your thoughts on that as we see this start to become more the norm?
I don't disparage any. Look, I want to see them play because I'm a fan of what they do. I don't disparage anyone who's not in the playoff for not playing. You look at Jake Butt, University of Michigan tight end, and Jalen Smith are like the two posters of what can go wrong. And so you think about what those young men gave up for the devotion to playing in the games in which they played, right? So I don't disparage it. If someone makes the decision that they don't want to play in that game for fear of injury, fine with me. But look, they are basically saying, okay, this is the platform that has been created. I've given everything that I can give to my university, to my teammates, to my coaches. And so now I feel like it's okay to be a little bit selfish because I have a future to concern myself with. And that's fine. What do you think? What do you guys think? That's the way I feel.
Yeah, I had said it earlier.
If you're playing for a national championship, obviously you're playing. But if you're not, it's I don't know. I don't mind it.
I had said it earlier. Like, if you're in the college football playoff, you're obviously not going to do this. But if you're Josh Rosen and you can be a top 3 pick, let's be real frank about something. The college has used Rosen up until this point, and now it's Rosen's turn to think about himself and his future. It's a mutually beneficial relationship. It's star quarterback for a program that's led them to some national prominence, at least by name. They've kind of underachieved a little bit. But now it's time for Rosen to look out for him. They've used each other exactly how they should. Time to move on. We saw Fournette do it. We saw McCaffrey do it. It's fine.
Right. And Grant, obviously, it worked for both of them. It was the right decision for both of them. They've had great years as rookies in the league. And you just look at Rosen specifically. If he's a top 3 pick ultimately, if that does come to fruition after the whole underwear Olympics and all of those things that have to happen yet, you're talking about $25 million guaranteed goal, something like that.
Oh, yeah.
If you're in the top 3. So, hey, man, I'm out. See y'all. Have fun in the bowl game. Love you. I'll be watching.
No, it's Golic and Wingo here on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. We're presented by Progressive Insurance, talking to Marty Smith on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And Marty, I think one of the parts of this conversation, because so many people get worried about that slippery slope of, well, if all of a sudden a guy's team is out of contention during the regular season, does he shut it down? And I think that does a disservice to the idea of what competitors these guys are on the field. And I want to use that to talk about one guy in particular that stands out there in Baker Mayfield. We've seen his rise. Where do you slot him in this class of quarterbacks? We know it's a class full of talent, guys with a lot of upside, but Baker seems to be the one with a ton of accomplishment on here and that definite edge.
Yeah, Rosen, Darnold, Allen, you're talking about these guys that can throw it to Kansas City, right? I mean, like, they have just cannons. Baker has – we always hear about the it factor, and I know that's kind of the term most people use. There is a moxie about him that I adore it. I mean, I love it. I'm drawn to it. I'm passionate about it. People gave him so much grief about planting the flag. Do it every single day and twice on Sunday. That's my guy. People gave him grief about losing his emotions against Kansas. You don't shake my hand during the pregame, I'm doing the same thing. And Are the rules different for someone at that point who knows he's probably going to win the Heisman Trophy? Sure they are. We said the same thing about Jameis Winston, back when he was at FSU and had won the Heisman. And you're like, hey, man, the rules are different for you when you're sitting in that light and on that platform. But I love Baker's it factor. I love that passion. Certainly, as he ages and matures, it will be corralled even further. And, I love the guy. Will he be a first-round pick? I don't know, man. I mean, everything's based on need. He has a really good skill set. He throws it better than people give him credit for. And there's a certain leadership factor that he has that I don't think a lot of people do in a unique way.
Yeah, look, Marty, he certainly has the ability to have a team full of players rally around him. No one wants to win more for their guys than Baker Mayfield. And that's why I said earlier on the show that if there was one quarterback in the country that I wanted for my team going into the college football playoff, it's Baker because of how his team fights for him. And I want to talk about that playoff with you. It's something you and I have done together for SportsCenter for the first 3 years of the playoff, and we've been together for that Clemson-Alabama game the last 2 years. We get part 3 now in the semifinals, and it's odd to me that we're actually talking about Clemson having a better opportunity to win back-to-back championships and not Alabama. Where do you see part 3 of this game going?
It just makes me grin.
Yeah.
Just hearing you preface it just makes me grin. I can't wait for this thing. I'm heading down to New Orleans this evening, and we'll be doing coverage all week down there. And this game's going to be it's going to be a slobber knocker. There's going to be some big time football plays made in this game. When you consider the last two that decided the last 2 national championships, you have 2 of the best college football coaches with a week to prepare for one another. Now they've had a month. And I can't wait to see it. I think ultimately what's going to decide it is Brian Dable going to be able to devise ways to get Calvin Ridley the football in space and get the football down the field vertically. They're going to run the ball well, both teams, despite the fact that these are really good front sevens on both sides. Defensively, Alabama will be healthy, almost universally healthy for the first time. We know Dylan Moses is a little beat up right now, but all of that depleted linebacking core that they've suffered through all year long will be ready to go. And even above that, Minkah Fitzpatrick will be fully healthy for the first time in some time. I can't wait. I mean, you look at the level of talent on the field, and you look at the level of depth of talent on that field. It's striking. And, boys, buckle it up tight. 8:45 on New Year's. Woo! I can't wait.
Can't wait.
We're going to love it. We can't wait. Marty, we can't wait to talk to you again. PJs and all, man. Appreciate you joining us this morning. Go enjoy that antler hat.
This hat. You got to see this hat, man. I would text you boys a picture of this hat, but I would be afraid that you guys would put it on the social media.
I will embargo the pic. I give you a no social media guarantee. I have to see the hat.
Okay. All right, it's coming.
We got a safe space. Thanks, Marty. That was Marty Smith, our ESPN college football analyst, joining us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Matt, something you brought up earlier about Oklahoma and what they've overcome, losing so many offensive weapons last year, and Dede Westbrook and Samaje Perine and Joe Mixon, all these different players. Clemson's really in that same boat, and they lost their quarterback. To lose their top receiver in Mike Williams, top running back in Wayne Gallman, and then lose a guy who'd been a Heisman Trophy runner-up for a couple of seasons in Deshaun Watson. What they've done, and I understand it's on the backs of a veteran defense, but has been in its own regard as impressive as anything you'll see all year.
Let me tell you something. I hosted our coverage of Clemson's Pro Day on SportsCenter. When Deshaun had his Pro Day, all the scouts were out there, and you'd mentioned the guys. Mike Williams was every bit of a star at that Pro Day. Tight end Jordan Leggett. I mean, these were guys in that offense. I was the first person to say it, and I admit I was 100% wrong. I said if Clemson was going to have a drop back to a 9-3 year, which a ton of programs would sign up for. I thought this would be the year because of having a break-in Kelly Bryant, a true freshman running back, some of these other guys. I just didn't know that this program that Dabo had built 3 years around the Deshaun Watsons, Wayne Gallmans, and et cetera, I thought that they might step back 1 year to progress the following year. I was dead wrong, and that speaks to the kind of program Dabo has because they lost everybody of significance on that offense, minus Hunter Renfrow, who's going to be great with the Patriots, by the way.
Yes, it's a collision course on that one, 100%. And to your point, this is kind of what Alabama's built. We talked about them having straight 1 or 2 recruiting classes. Clemson near the top in this one. 3 of, I think, the top 5 ESPN 100 commits are Clemson guys.
But think about what we're saying, Golic. We're talking about the best player in program history in Deshaun Watson.
Yep.
In history. To be able to come back from that, and I know you can rely on defense, but in college, these are college kids. Sometimes things just don't go right on that Saturday. For them to replace the most important and best player in program history and be the number 1 seed the following year, to me, is the most impressive thing that I've seen in college football this year.
Hey girl, have you done something new with your scales? Using new moisturizer? Nice. It really brings out the hazel in your eyes. Oh, hold on. Are you using whitening strips too? Your fangs look good, girl. Really good.
A really charming snake charmer? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
Wait, what? Have you been doing Pilates too?
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Blue Moon is brewed with Valencia orange peel and a touch of coriander. It's a creative twist on a Belgian-style wheat ale for a taste that shines brighter. Taste responsibly. Blue Moon Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
Golic and Wingo, ESPN Radio, ESPN2. I'm SportsCenter's Matt Berry filling in for Trey. Mike Golic Jr., representing House Golic as always. We are joined now by our NFL insider, Josina Anderson, here to talk some football after Week 16. Hard to believe in the NFL already. We have reached this point of the process. We were just at training camp 2 weeks ago.
It goes by so quick. It's like a fire drill.
It is. It's the quickest regular season in sports. That and college football, and it drives me nuts, but that's for another show.
Okay.
The Philadelphia Eagles wrapped up the 1 seed last night in the NFC. We were kind of bantering during the break that they're the 1 seed by name. They've got some issues with the quarterback situation. But I told you that I love the New Orleans Saints in the NFC. You covered that team this weekend. Yeah. What have you noticed about the Saints that makes them legitimate in the NFC to make a run?
Well, first of all, let me just say it started from when I was in the locker room on Friday. Real good vibrations in that team locker room. They were doing Secret Santa. Alvin Kamara's got a scarf from John Kuhn. He's like, I'm giving it back. I don't like it. They're playing, the video games. You could just tell that there's a good synergy. And I think what you noticed in the game during the Falcons, while they were playing the Falcons, was they have really good balance. Alvin Kamara, Mark Ingram, they're getting that in the air, in the ground. They were able to open it up with Ted Ginn coming back. You saw a really good chemistry right there with Drew Brees and Ted Ginn when they got that touchdown off the butt pick and what have you. But Alvin Kamara was telling me, he said, listen, the Falcons never got the full dose of Alvin Kamara in the first game. He said, what I do is create mismatches out wide in the slot with the linebackers, and I feel like they really weren't ready for it. And when I was talking to Brian Poole last night from the Atlanta Falcons, he was like, you know what, they were the better team. And he said what Dan Quinn told us going into this game that we have to win this week, just shifting to the Falcons real quick, he said our playoffs start this Sunday. Mm-hmm. So it's a definitely interesting scenario going on right now in the NFC South. Yeah, a lot of compelling action there. I know you're getting ready to cover that team and the Panthers this coming weekend. Both of them, the Panthers getting a big win down the stretch. When you look at those two teams going forward, especially in Carolina and Cam Newton, that outfit hasn't been perfect this season, but still in the hunt and a lot, I think, to really get excited about. They're still on an offense that's found its way after last season's slump. Well, I think it begins 3 games ago. They were really impressive against the Vikings, obviously, in Case Keenum, and how they were able to put them away. And then the second week in a row to do that against the Packers, you really see that defense clicking under Steve Wilks for them to get that pressure, even though they were a little bit inconsistent at the beginning of the season. And anytime Cam Newton's in a good mood, you got good Cam, he's feeding it, he's running to the crowd after his scores, that they have that potential. But they definitely need to continue that upward swing so that they're going into the playoffs on an upward trend similar to the 2015 season when they went to the Super Bowl.
I had started off this conversation talking about being in Week 17, and it's hard to believe that we're already there. But that means after this coming Sunday, that Monday is when we learn the fate of a lot of head coaches around the league. There's been rumors as little as 8 or as many as 10. Yeah. What are you hearing about who might be on the hot seat and someone that might be safe that we're hearing could be gone?
Well, there's a lot of talk, about Jason Garrett. I think that they will keep him. I don't think that he is the issue. Right now you do have a lot of injuries. Obviously what happened with Ezekiel Elliott. Yep. I don't necessarily think that they should make a change there. Pagano is someone that you'll look at in Indianapolis. Marvin Lewis. I know Adam Schefter made that report, although he's being a little bit coy with that still. Anthony Lynn has closed strong. I think he's good. Vance Joseph, I know that a lot of people in Denver have been talking about the fact that they've had too many double-digit losses. But, you also get a pulse when you talk to the players in the locker room. So different from what I was getting from the Giants locker room when I was doing that report about how guys were not necessarily feeling Ben McAdoo, and we see what has happened there. When I talk to guys like Von Miller, when I talk to guys like C.J. Anderson, they're on the record and not telling me something different off the record. Yeah. They really still feel like we had a bad patch, and they're very much in support. And trust me, they would tell me if it was something different, So we'll see. I mean, it's up to John Elway. But you know what, guys? I really don't feel like it's fair because the quarterback situation was so tenuous even before Vance Joseph started.
Awful.
And if you're playing 3 quarterbacks, that means you don't have one. So even just on that alone, I don't know how you guys feel. I feel like that deserves another opportunity there.
I would say the same thing for Bill O'Brien with the Texans. We saw where that team was with a healthy Deshaun Watson.
Oh.
And it was some of Bill O'Brien's best coaching when Deshaun Watson went in there, too, the way that he finally tailored that offense. He's gotten that quarterback whisperer mantra so often that it was finally nice to see him live up to that a little bit more with a guy with a ton of talent. Talking to Josina Anderson, our ESPN NFL insider, in studio giving us the Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, best phones, best networks, and no contracts. And speaking of quarterback whisperers, someone who they made changes organizationally, the Browns brought in John Dorsey, said that Hugh Jackson's job is safe. But has there been any more rumblings? Because on the verge of being the second team to go 0-16 in NFL history, it seems hard in my mind to just rationalize bringing back a coach who's won 1 game now in 2 years.
But it's kind of the same scenario, right? We were just talking about the quarterback situation. I have covered the Browns, I think, in the last 3 drafts. And trust me, I've sat there being just befuddled like you just saw Deshaun Watson sitting there. And we're all like, he's there. You could have had Myles Garrett. You could have had Deshaun Watson. You don't do it the year before, Carson Wentz. And then you end up with Cody Kessler. No offense, but Cody Kessler, I'm hearing that was more of a Podesta thing. So I believe the owner here. If he says that Hugh Jackson is safe, that's what I believe. And I also know that there's been some rumblings of the last few days that Hugh Jackson has lost the locker room. You've heard some of his players come forth and say, no, they want Hugh Jackson to stay. I understand you're like, well, it's only, 1 win, no wins this season. But I feel like if you can attack this quarterback situation and get the guy he prefers, they can't do it again next year. There's just no way, right? There's no way that this can be repeated.
Well, and for Hugh, it becomes interesting because now we start to hear the rumblings around the Cincinnati job where both him and Jay Gruden, who were coordinators there and have ties there, are being thrown around as people who may replace Marvin Lewis if that does indeed go the way that people are talking about.
If you're the Browns, though, why you invested a pick on DeShone Kizer last year, knowing that this year was going to be loaded with quarterbacks, knowing that you probably weren't going to be that good.
You know why? It's because they're looking at it from a value situation of where you actually drafted Kizer, like in terms of the risk and what you actually had to put forth monetarily. They feel like you can make that pick there and still be okay. I don't know. Are you guys sold on the quarterbacks for this year coming out of the draft as a potential 1 or 2? I mean, would you?
I think Rosen's a guy that I think Darnold's got more upside,
but enough to be your 1 or your 2 is what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
Like, you trust
Rosen
that?
And Darnold, I would, and even Josh Allen kid out of Wyoming.
So they're Carson Wentz-like-ish for you, Deshaun Watson-ish for you.
I think so, and I think Baker Mayfield. You've heard the comparisons to Russell Wilson. I think he gets in the right situation. I think there's 4 players.
I like his swag. I mean, you know.
Oh yeah, he's got some of that competitive edge.
He'll tell you.
And some of those leadership traits. I mean, we look at what Dak Prescott, and certainly less of a year for him, but you heard Dan Mullen and that coaching staff talk that this is one of the best leaders they had ever been around, period. So there's a value in that. Deshaun Watson out of Clemson, who we remember fell down a little bit. Now, it wasn't all that much, but he wasn't in that 1 or 2 range necessarily for a lot of people in that draft.
Should have been.
That's a good question for you, because you're around teams and you cover the draft, and we've been around college football for quite some time, and NFL evaluators would say, oh, his decision-making is a little suspect, and he turns the ball over a little more. How much do you believe with some of these front office guys that you talk to, do they read in too much to too many things?
You know, it's interesting. I was just having this conversation with Mel Kiper the other day, and we're just talking about how much are these talent evaluators really assessing in that 15-minute interview during the combine. Just even look at the case of Eli Apple, right? Mm-hmm. Obviously, a first-round draft pick for the Giants, and there's so much talk about his maturity and what have you. Now, I feel like, and maybe I don't know if that's my woman antlers,
Antlers very popular right now. Marty Smith is wearing his antlers
not
before.
the antler spray or anything like that. Yes. Right. What I'm saying is I feel like you have to be able to sit across from a guy and pick up those things, whether it's women's intuition, whether it's just, you know, what his vibe is, other than just the X's and O's. And there was just so much said now when you look back at it, as far as the scouting report, that now is coming to light as to whether you should have even picked him in that slot. Mm-hmm. And just to go back to your question, I do feel like this is an area where the guys who are really strong on X's and O's are weak, and you wonder if they have to bring in somebody who's better at assessing life skills, personality skills that can just help you project how they're going to handle the professional world as 22-year-olds, 23-year-olds coming into what I call the 2 comma life. You know, I'm not in the 2 comma world. I just have 1 comma, okay? But when you're coming into the 2 comma world, and just last week you were having mayo and hot dogs and ramen noodles to be able to handle life. So
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Because you're right.
The 2 comma life.
The 2 comma life. I mean, you and I can pick up some extra change maybe if we do some, correspondent work.
Okay, I'll do some 2 comma life.
Exactly. Listen, I could look for a 2 comma New Year. My New Year's resolution is to try and find a way into that lifestyle because
really?
It seems pretty interesting there. But no, listen, it's a good point, and I think that's the one part of football that's always going to elude us. Whether it's old school X's and O's, whether it's some of the new school where we've tried to see more an analytic driven process, there's still a difficulty of finding out, the most important 4 inches in sports
because
between a guy's head.
Because how can you judge will, right? I mean, that's how evaluators missed on a Tom Brady or what have you. But there are certain things that you can ask, right, to, I guess, give you a better projection. I remember I heard Oprah one time saying that in all interviews, and not that this is the question, but just to kind of get to a point, she said that she feels like when she asked someone, what was your biggest childhood trauma? Like, however you answer that question, she feels like, I just heard that her say that one time, gives a window into where your drive is, where your fears are, just things like that. And I don't know if they're asking, we've heard of some famous questions during the combine, if these questions are getting to the will of the person. You know what I mean? So that's how I don't know.
And look, and if you're by that measure, you should have seen what Deshaun went through as a child with his mother and how she battled cancer and how he was there for her. He was a winner in high school.
As an adolescent.
To me, that's like
how do you miss that? And the thing about it is, right before the draft, I was around him because we were doing a piece for ESPN, and I felt like even in just a couple days, guys, of being around him, I'm like, there's just no way that you miss on this guy and his leadership qualities, and yet there he sat. But it worked out for him, right? Going to Houston as opposed to Cleveland, at least at this point.
Let's get him back healthy.
Yeah, exactly. We've seen how quarterbacks bristle at the prospect of going to Cleveland coming out of draft. But
erosion, Josh.
But maybe that's a story for another day. Josina, appreciate you hanging out with us.
Did you get my gift? Is it outside? Is it outside?
Yeah, I think it's still outside.
The one that you got me last year?
They have to back it up. They have to back it up into the parking lot. It's coming in on the truck bed. Exactly.
2 comma life.
Exactly. Those 2 comma gifts. Josina Anderson always bringing us the 2 comma commentary over here on ESPN Radio. We'll build off some of that. And speaking of Deshaun Watson, coming up next, DeAndre Hopkins deserves that Christmas gift in the new year. I'm Mike Golick Jr. He's Matthew Berry. Stick with us. It's Golick and Wingo on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Yeah, baby.
You did it again.
Blue Moon is brewed with Valencia orange peel and a touch of coriander. It's a creative twist on a Belgian-style wheat ale for a taste that shines brighter. Taste responsibly. Blue Moon Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
It's Golic and Wingo. Mike Golic Jr., Matt
That's
Berry.
the beauty of radio being on TV.
Oh, it is. It's nice. You look up, you forget which parts are on TV and not. Riley, our working on stats and info for us over here, was trying to come into the room. There's chaos and confusion out here.
See, but in that example, we should just pretend like it's radio.
Yes, exactly.
Like I don't think you adhere to the cameras.
No, I like to not adhere to the cameras as much as possible. I've gotten caught doing some. I've gotten caught eating. In a place where we're not supposed to, and obviously that didn't actually happen. If any of my bosses are up and listening right now, was not eating in the studio. That
you guys,
doesn't
it's
happen.
free breakfast you get over here in radio?
It's free breakfast, but you're expected not to eat in the studio. To me, that seems counterintuitive. But yeah, here we go.
Here we go.
And you know what? Travis has inserted himself into this just for the camera time. It's
Cameras
embarrassing.
be damned, though we have quarterback stats.
Day after Christmas, the selfishness is back, as we mentioned. So, Golic and Wingo back here as well. You guys can tweet us, the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. We're presented by Progressive Insurance. And hey, ESPN Radio's got you covered for bowl game action. Tune in tonight as Kansas State battles UCLA in the Cactus Bowl. Coverage begins at 8 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio, ESPNRadio.com, and the ESPN app.
We keep bringing up Josh Rosen out of the game because we're not sure if he's been cleared from concussion protocol yet to participate in the game. He says that if he is cleared, that he would like to play. I'm guessing he's not going to get cleared to play because I don't think Josh Rosen wants to play because of the NFL draft coming up, of which he's probably going to be the top overall pick, if not a top 3 pick. And I don't blame some of these players. Like if you're Josh Rosen, and we know that the NFL is a quarterback league, you are only as good as your quarterback under center out of shotgun. If you're Rosen, do you blame him for not wanting to play for the Browns?
I don't, especially seeing because a lot of people have criticized this current Browns regime for not drafting a Carson Wentz or a Deshaun Watson or any of these guys we've seen come out over the last couple of years. My rebuttal has always been this Browns franchise, regardless of which staff or which regime, has not showed me that they're capable of taking anyone in and developing them. So who's to say they wouldn't have ruined one of these top prospects by being there? So you can understand the reservation of saying, man, I would rather not play there if I have the choice.
Right.
That being said, being the number 1 overall pick is still something I don't think you turn down.
Yeah, but look, we can choose as employees where we want to work, right? We can choose the company that we want to work for. And if I'm a Josh Rosen, I would much rather go to the New York Giants. First of all, it's New York City as opposed to Cleveland. No offense, Cleveland, as facts are facts. But you could sit there behind an Eli Manning for a year and learn and develop and know that when it is your time, you get Odell Beckham Jr., you get Evan Ingram, you get a young offensive base. There's something to be said about waiting your turn as a rookie quarterback to let things develop, and you might have the longevity of your career to thank for it.
Oh, I agree with that part. I heard someone say this about relationships. They said you're as faithful as your options. I'd say when it comes to this, when it comes to the world of work, you're as powerful as the leverage that you have.
Right.
And in this situation, we're not used to seeing guys have a ton of leverage, but we remember in a very similar situation involving the Giants, what Eli Manning was able to leverage for himself, saying, I'm not going to play for San Diego. I'm not going to do this. You can sign me all you want. Or try to, I will not sign with you guys. And he was able to leverage that situation to get to where he ultimately wanted to go. Josh Rosen has been that proponent of leveraging his situation through his college career as much as anyone. Maybe he's the prince that was promised here.
You look, in both franchises ended up with really good quarterbacks in Phillip Rivers and Eli Manning. They got 2 Super Bowl championships out of Eli. But if I'm looking strictly at some of these quarterbacks that are coming out that might benefit from a year, that's why we keep coming back to Deshaun Watson, just pure coincidence. But there was thought that the Chargers were going to take Deshaun. L.A. franchise, Phillip Rivers didn't have much time left. There is such thing as a luxury pick for an NFL team with a franchise quarterback, and it doesn't always need to be one of need right away, and this could be one of those classes as we get through bowl season and into the end of the regular season in the NFL where a franchise might see that.
It really is that delicate balance of how much do we have to mortgage and try and win now versus having that longer-term view. The Patriots are finding that out the hard way as they look at Jimmy Garoppolo thriving,
they
living
had 3
his best
starters
life
on their roster
on the West Coast, and now they've got one, and he's 40 years old.